Hey bosses! Today I am chatting with you about what it means to author like a boss. This episode will be inspiring, motivational, and delicious. I hope you enjoy it.
Welcome to the Author Like a Boss podcast, the podcast for indie authors who want to improve their writing, up-level their marketing, make money with their books, and have fun doing it. Now, on to the show with your host, ALAB Barnard.
Hey bosses! This week we are going to talk about what it means to author like a boss. This summer I really wanted to define what author like a boss meant for myself and for you guys. And it's not just, I'm doing it like a boss. I mean, it kind of is, but I'm like, what does that even look like in life? So I spent some time writing out what it meant for me, and I hope, and as I share what author like a boss means, that it's something that inspires you. So the first thing when you author like a boss is you easily market your books, engage with your fans, and make more sales without overinvesting your time and energy. Okay, so when you author like a boss, you aren't struggling with your marketing because you're already doing what works. Marketing isn't this big, bad unknown, like the marketing monster. Okay. It's just another task that you see to during the day and the week. It's kind of like brushing your teeth or grocery shopping. Okay. Every day you aren't like, oh no, what am I going to get at the store? Or how am I going to brush my teeth? Because you've made a list, you've done this before, you're experienced, and you know exactly what you need to do and are familiar with the process. When you author like a boss around your marketing, it does the same thing because you know what you need to do and it's not this big scary thing. Yes, there is a marketing learning curve, but that's like the same with anything new that you start doing. Okay. And once you get the marketing set up, it's just a matter of maintaining those things that work for you, whether that's your social media, your newsletter, writing your books, and investing in ads. Okay. And once it's set up, then it's just maintaining those things and adjusting them as necessary. You're like, Facebook made a little change. Amazon made a little change. I need to adjust around that and doing that. Not too bad. And there's one more thing that I wanted to go talk about, touch on when it comes to easily marketing your books and engaging with your fans and making sales, etc. Okay. And that's this. Once you befriend some of your fans, once you befriend them, marketing becomes less of a chore and more of an honor. Okay, so your customers have given you their hard-earned money and time. Like, let's say, for example, one of your customers makes $12 an hour and they spent $4 on your book. Okay, so that's 20 minutes of their time at work that they, worked for somebody else and then gave that money they earned to you. Plus the time it takes to read your book. And that's time that they aren't spending with their kids or it depends on the book, okay, children's books. But that's time that they aren't doing other things that they are gifting to you, okay? It's a gift to have somebody spend that time. Just like for me with you guys, it's a gift that you guys give me your time every week. Like such an honor. And I try to do it justice. And it can be an honor for you as well. Okay. It can be an honor for you to give back to your readers by providing them with consistent newsletter content and your active presence on social media. Okay. They can become your friends because they're awesome. Usually your readers are pretty freaking awesome. Okay. Because you already have that something in common, which is your books. Okay. So you're going to enjoy spending time with them, and it's a completely mindset shift around marketing when that happens. And it makes it way easier to market your books, engage with these people, okay, engage with fellow fans of your genre, and make more sales and enjoy the whole process. So the second key aspect when you author like a boss, like this defining aspect of being an author like a boss, okay, is you make more time, more money, and more freedom. Okay, so what this means, what this looks like is instead of trying to find time, you're someone who makes time for the things that are important to you. Okay, because we all know it feels so empowering to be proactive in creating the time and energy and resources that you need. You're creating them, okay, instead of constantly reacting to what life throws at you. Because life always happens. I mean, life happens, you guys. This last week was insane for me. I'm like, what? When am I sleeping? Okay. But I'm still here making this podcast because you can structure your time in such a way that you aren't a victim to it and instead make your time work for you. Okay. So that's a key aspect of authoring like a boss. The second part of that was more money. Okay. And here's the thing. You're like, time. How am I finding time? Because some of us, it's a real struggle. And I am more fortunate in that area. The key to making more time is more money. Yeah. Yep. It's the key part of creating more time and more freedom. Okay, so I have hired a coach myself. And if you haven't heard of her, Rachel Rogers is amazing. She has a podcast that was called $1 Million Badass and is now called Hello 7. Anyways, I could go on and on about her. And instead, though, I'm going to tell you what she told me. That was like, oh. And it was profit solves all problems. Okay. Because when you have the profit that you need, you can hire a housekeeper. You can get a nanny for 10 hours a week. You can send your laundry out to a laundry service and they give it back to you folded and ready to put away. Yes. You can turn your den into a writing room, right? And all that time that you've saved by not cleaning, by not doing the laundry, by getting the nanny, all of that time that you've saved, you can now put towards your writing and your family and your friends and whatever those things are that are so important to you. Now, I want to acknowledge that we don't see that many examples of this. Like, it's not like something that we get to see very often. And that's because there's this expectation that women should do it all. Like, if you have a job, you have the kids, taking care of the house, all that stuff. Okay, we're supposed to do that, all of that without complaining and really like carry that, all those things for our families. Okay. And it's really heavy weight. Like, I don't know about you, but I'm like, my shoulders are hurting right now. And I'm pretty sure it's from the stress of all that I'm trying to accomplish. Okay. But women entrepreneurs and authors, okay, all over the world. And as an author, you are an entrepreneur. Women everywhere are building lives that work for them. Okay. Like, I've talked to a lot of women and they're like, yeah, we hire people for our help. We don't have our self-worth attached to being Superwoman. Okay. We're okay with getting help because what it allows for when you get the help and you're taking care of yourself and you're giving yourself that time is you get to live in your creativity and facilitate a life that works for you. Okay. And then by association, also your family, right? Okay. And I also want to talk to you about having more freedom. That's the other part of it. Okay. And freedom to me is like one of my core principles that I love. I literally have the word freedom tattooed onto my arm because it's like freedom. And it has so many implications of freedom to be who you truly are and not be judged, the freedom to make choices that are empowering for you, freedom to love who we want to love, and et cetera, et cetera. I love freedom. It's such an empowering word for me. And when you author like a boss, you have more freedom. And it shows up in a lot of ways, but in the way we're going to talk about right now is the freedom in your schedule. Because we were talking about more time, more money, more freedom. So you have more freedom in your schedule to give to those things that are important to you, right? So like if you have a kid who has a performance at school during the day, you can go. You can adjust your schedule and move things around so that you get to go to your child's performance. Or if they get sick, you get to stay at home with them and take care of them and make them chicken noodle soup. Or various other things. Like when you have more time and more money, it equates into more freedom that feels so good. So do you guys remember a few years ago when the solar eclipse was coming over the US? Well, at that point, my husband and I both were self-employed, as we are still now. But at that time we also were, which was awesome because on, a couple days before the eclipse, we didn't even really know how cool it was going to be. So a couple days we were like, you know what, should we do that? Yeah, I think we should, because it was going over just an hour and a half away from our house. It wasn't even that far. And so we're like, oh, okay. So we both took off. We rescheduled things in our lives so that we could take off that Monday. And so we did. And you guys, it was so amazing. It was so amazing. I remember calling my sister and we were both like, did you see it? Did you see it? Because neither of us had kind of been planning on going. And then we both end up doing it. And it was awesome. Anyways, if you didn't see it, I'm sorry. But the whole point of that is that we were able to see it because we had the freedom to move our schedule around. And that means like you have the freedom to take trips with your family. It means you have the freedom to go to writing conferences and write them off on your taxes because it's tax deductible, because it's for your work. You have the freedom to go on a writing retreat. Like, hey, I have to go to the writing retreat in the Scottish castle because it's for my job. I'm doing research for a book and have that freedom. And like, it's not something that's not possible. It's totally possible. Okay. Especially when you author like a boss. Bing. That little ding was my wink. Ding. Okay. The third aspect that I defined when I was like, okay, what does it mean to author like a boss? And that was, you get to do what you love. And not just get to, you powerfully choose to do what you love, writing for your career. And you choose it because you love it and you're making tons of money. Okay. And so when I was a kid, when I was younger, I was not taught anything of the sort. Okay. I wasn't taught anything about how you can do what you love and make money doing it. I actually was taught that, doing something in the arts was probably very chancy and not very stable or secure. And I was encouraged to educate in things and get a job around something that was safe, reasonable, and responsible. And what happened is, one, even though I'm super duper smart, I think God/the universe was like, this is not your path. So even though I was doing the smart, quote unquote, secure thing, I wasn't having very much success because I really do think the universe was like, you can't be successful at this or you'll never leave. So you can't. You need to do what your soul is calling you to do. And thank goodness, because every day that I was at my jobs doing the responsible thing, my soul was slowly shrinking. I don't know if you have ever experienced that. I'm sure many, many, many of you experience that every day right now. And it was so terrible. It's a terrible, terrible feeling, which is not what you're doing when you're authoring like a boss. Okay. When you're authoring like a boss, you're like, yeah, I love writing. I always wanted to be a writer. And now I get to be one and I'm making a lot of money and I get to do what I love. And actually you can write for like between 4 to 6 hours a day and including your marketing and doing whatever revisions. And that's enough time to make the money that you need to make. And then spend the other time doing fun things with your family. Okay. Because it is possible. It's entirely possible in this industry, especially, to do what you love and make money at it. Okay. There aren't any gatekeepers in the indie publishing industry. Okay. There's not any gatekeepers. There's nobody saying, no, you can't. maybe there are people in your life saying, no, you can't, but there's no like editor or publisher who's like, nope, we're not publishing that. No, it gets to be published. And then you get to share it. Okay. And do what you love. And the other aspect of that is, okay, so I don't know how many of you have the same thing, but one of my things is I really wanted to be a good example for my children. And so I haven't had kids yet. And part of the reason I think was obvious. One, I didn't find my husband for a while, but two, I really, really wanted to be to a certain spot in my life. Like I really wanted to be at a spot where I was making my dreams happen. And therefore, as my children were growing, they could actually see me making my dreams happen and living that life. And therefore, they knew it was possible for themselves. Like that's because I didn't have that. And so it's something I've always wanted to pass on to my children and whatever children. I love kids. And like, there's so many opportunities for you. And when you do what you love, you can do it a lot and get really good at it. And basically, when you get really, really good at any one thing, somebody will pay you for it. Okay. So, but the other part of doing what you love for your writing, which is writing for your career, is that you have to stop giving so much of your time to things that don't fuel your soul. Okay. Whether that's your full-time job, your chores, errands, reality TV, the news, whatever. Okay. You only have so much time in this life. And how many of your waking hours do you give to your writing? I think that's something that we as a woman have a challenge with a little bit, is giving priority to the things that we love. I've been having this challenge this week. It's been a big challenge of putting myself first in the face of a lot of life happening. But what would it be like if you could freely and easily give more to your writing? Like if you could quit your job and hire someone to clean and turn off your TV because you enjoy your worlds so much more. Like you're like, I don't want to watch TV because none of the shows have exactly what I want, but my book does. Okay. And then because you're doing what you love and you love what you're doing, you're giving it good time and attention. And then the rest of the time you get to do other things you love. You get to set your writing aside, let the worlds and stories percolate in your back of the mind while you're hanging out with your family or going out with friends. And what a blessing it is, I think. It is such a blessing to know that the only thing stopping you is your own mindset and fears, right? The only thing stopping you from authoring like a boss and doing what you love for your writing career is ourselves, because there's not something outside of us that has more control over it than we do. There's no publisher, there's no agent, there's nobody outside of ourselves, especially in this industry, that has more control over our career than ourselves. And we have the power to do whatever we want to with that. And finally, my favorite principle of authoring like a boss, of being an author like a boss, is becoming an empowered, six-figure, badass woman. Okay, so this is my favorite because it has the empowered part in it. And what this looks like, this is number 4 of the 4 things that this summer I was like, what is author like a boss? Being an empowered, six-figure, badass woman. Okay. So what this looks like though is that feeling, okay, that feeling every day where you're living life as your best self. You aren't looking at life like where there's this gap between where you are and where you want to be, although there is always to some extent, but you've made peace with that and you really like where you are. So often as women, we have this feeling, we have this constant feeling that there's something we need to change or fix. And often that it's related to something beauty, something physical about ourselves. So whether that's your better hair or better skin or body, whatever it is, I need to lose some weight. Often that feeling of fixing ourselves is beauty related. And that's the easiest to see, I think. But it also shows up in a lot of other ways. And part of that's, whether it's showing up as being a better wife or a better mom or a better house cleaner or a meal maker, whatever. Okay. There's so many different ways it shows up where we're like, I should be doing better at this. And we're judging ourselves. Where you're living from a place where we're constantly wondering, am I enough? And you guys, I sat, as soon as I said that, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the question I've been dealing with this week. And then, oh my gosh, this is so meta right now, because this is what I've been journaling about this today, meditating about this today, and here I am, I already wrote it down. Because when you're wondering if you're enough, then you end up constantly trying to prove to yourself and others that you are. Oh, baloney. Not crying in this episode. Everything is fine. Okay. When you author like a boss, you know you're enough. Okay. When you author like a boss, you know you're enough. Every day, you walk out into the world feeling powerful and confident and loving yourself. Because you took action and you took a chance and you believed in yourself and you committed to yourself. And through that process of doing all those things, you embodied your best self. Your best self is always in you. It's in you right now, me. Okay. Phew, I needed this for myself. Okay. And that doesn't mean you won't make mistakes. Like, this last few days have been rough for me, you guys. I definitely haven't always been owning the author like a boss in this last week, because I am human. But then the other part of authoring like a boss is allowing yourself to be yourself when you're not your best self. Or at least not being too hard on yourself. Okay. Because we all make mistakes and life still happens, and things aren't always easy and in flow. But when you author like a boss, you know you'll be okay. You know that even with all the crazy stuff that happens, and even when you're in a funk, you're like, you know what? I've been in a funk before, and I'll get out of it, and then I'm going to be badass again. Okay? And you can do that, and I get to do that because I like myself, because you like yourself. You like who you've become. You like who you are in the world, and you're proud to be who you are and do what you do. Okay? Whew, really got to me. I'm going to repeat what the 4 things are. I just gave you like the in-depth, but the 4 aspects of authoring like a boss are that you easily market your books, engage with your fans, and make more sales without over-investing your time and energy. You make more time, more money, and more freedom. You do what you love, writing, for your career, and you get to become and be an empowered 6-figure badass woman. Oh, and I really just focused on the empowered part, because we've talked about money a little bit, but for me, the empowered and the badass is my favorite part. That's the part I'm crying about right now. But naturally, what happens when you are empowered and you are being your best badass self is that God and the universe respond by giving you lots of money. Because you're allowing yourself to receive lots of money when you're being that self. So now you have the vision of what it means to author like a boss. Okay, now you have that vision, those 4 things. We've gone into some detail, like what it looks like, and it's such a beautiful, it's so beautiful. Okay, but how do you do that? How do you build that life? How do you create that? How do you author like a boss? Okay, I've created a model. The other part of the summer was like, okay, now that I've created this vision of what it is, what it means to author like a boss, now I need to create a model so that I can teach other women and authors how to become an empowered six-figure indie author and author like a boss. And so I want to let you know that I have created that model. It's so cool. Like, it's so empowering. Is that so weird for me to say that about my own things? But a number of people have been introduced to it, and they also think it is really inspiring and motivational because it has so much clarity. And you're like, oh, that's what I need to do. It's got a lot of clarity, and having that clarity can be very empowering. So if you'd like to find out about that model, because it's more than I can do in one podcast episode, plus I'd like to, chat with you if you have any questions. So if you would like to go find out about that model, I do the How to Author Like a Boss masterclass, where I actually walk you through the model step by step. And so you can sign up for the next masterclass at authorlikeaboss.com/ALAB masterclass. And the ALAB stands for Author Like a Boss. So it's ALAB masterclass. Okay. So from the Author Like a Boss model, I also have created a 12-week program called Boss Up, like Author Like a Boss Up. Boss Up. Like Lizzo's song, Boss Up and Change Your Life. I think that lines comes from the song. It comes from the song Feeling Good as Hell. Okay, by Lizzo, you guys. Lizzo. She's amazing. I love her. And I didn't discover that song had the Boss Up line in it until after I'd already named my program. So I was like, it's a sign. It's a sign. Boss up and change your life. Okay. Whew. That's Boss Up. Boss Up is a 12-week program that takes that Author Like a Boss model, which if you've heard it, seen it in the masterclass, yay. If you haven't, go sign up. But it takes you to expertise in each aspect of the Author Like a Boss model, or at least it teaches you how to get to expertise. Now, here's the thing. You can't get to expertise, like the realistic, being real here. Okay. You can't get to become an empowered six-figure indie author in 12 weeks, or maybe you can, but it might be a fluke, or it'll only be, you do it in 12 weeks because you've already put lots of years into it. Like it's like 5 years and 12 weeks. Okay. 12 weeks isn't long enough to implement all the things, but it is long enough to find out what they are and then get some crazy good momentum. Okay. Like it's like, oh, now I know exactly what I need to do and I have time now to implement them. And so I am super excited because I talked to one of the people who've just signed up for the Boss Up program. And it was so amazing to be like, I know you are going to get what you need. And I know that I'm going to be there for you every step of the way. So if you're interested in finding out more about the model and the 12-week program Boss Up, go ahead and sign up for that masterclass, and that will educate you. And the masterclass is amazing whether you sign up for the Boss Up program or not. And I don't talk about the program till the end. So even if you just want to come and get the model and get really inspired, definitely come sign up. Okay. Whew. There was one more thing that I wanted to mention and I thought it was really, really timely in talking about the author, like what it means to author like a boss. Because I was on Facebook today, and you guys, I don't know if you remember Russell Nolte. I've interviewed him a couple of times, and he's one of those he's like character that he's kind of like Beats. Like people love him or they don't. I love him. I think he's like he just says it how it is for him, and he's trying to be generous, and it doesn't always come across right. But anyways, sorry. I love Russell, and he wrote this post today that I thought was applicable to basically everything. And so this is a little bit of a lengthy post, but I'm going to read the whole thing. He said, "The best advice is usually the most boring. It doesn't get a lot of shares, and it doesn't have a ton of likes. It does not go viral. People don't gossip about it on every social media channel. There aren't many influencers peddling a good advice because it doesn't get attention. And that's what influencers crave. Attention is fleeting, so loud advice overtakes good advice. Good advice just sits there like a rock, waiting to be found, waiting for people to turn it over, and completely content never to be found. There's no need to guard good advice because almost nobody wants it. And when they hear it, they ignore it because good advice doesn't demand to be heard. People who give good advice are quite happy to let their success speak for itself. So they don't spend a lot of time hammering into people because they are too busy doing it. Almost every piece of advice I hear is garbage, but it's loud, so I know people will listen. And because it's loud and easy to consume, it spreads like a virus. Then people follow that advice to their doom because following easy advice is easy. Following good advice is hard. You guys, that's so true. Good advice tends to be expensive too. It's expensive to learn and expensive to implement, at least in time. It doesn't necessarily have to be expensive financially, but at least in time. And it's expensive to validate. Sometimes it takes years and years of work to mold good advice into something that works. But when you do, good advice is eternal. And things that take years aren't sexy. I've said this before. They are just right because they stood the test of time. They aren't sexy, but they're right. He says, I have watched the greatest minds of my generation spoiled by bad advice. Meanwhile, good advice endures, not because of virality, but because it works. It carries on because the flame is nurtured, and when someone else succeeds with it, they become the standard bearer. They make sure the fire doesn't go out. Any loud advice you receive is probably bad advice. Good advice is whispered for fear that the candle will go out if you speak too loudly, and for respect to all the standard bearers who came before. It's readily available, though. You just have to look for it and find people that peddle in it. They're probably not going to be flashy because they let their success speak for them. I wanted to thank Russell for posting that. I shared it on my Facebook page, and I highly recommend that any of you who are interested follow or join Russell's group, Authors and Creators Making Money Selling Books. I read that today and I was like, that is so true, because here I am talking about my author like a boss, defining it and creating programs to help people. And I know they aren't sexy, but I do know they are what works. And so I hope that you all can feel the thought and caring and attention and love that goes into this podcast, that goes into these posts, the posts that I do, that goes into the programs I create. I hope you can feel that. And even if it's not super sexy, I'm super sexy though. All I do, I should talk like this for the rest in my sexy voice. No. I had somebody recently, she told me that she always imagined that I looked like the progressive lady. And I was like, I had no idea what to think about that. I was like, I kind of do. I've got dark brown hair and glasses, and I guess I am kind of goofy. Anyways, I'm off on a tangent. So I hope you guys can feel the good. And if you'd like to work with me in the not sexy, but it works way, come to the masterclass. Again, to sign up to attend, you go to authorlikeaboss.com/ALAB masterclass. And I hope to see you there because how awesome would it be for you to this year become that empowered 6-figure indie author and create that life where you get to spend your time on the things that you love, with the people that you love, and doing what you love. Okay. And not having to do the things you don't love, like laundry. And traveling to Scottish castles for retreats and having it be tax deductible. Oh, that sounds sexy, but it takes work to get there. Oh gosh, that does sound sexy. Okay, I hope to hear from you all today. The next Boss Up program is starting really soon, okay? And it's the first cohort. I just barely created the program, and so there's not too many people, and it's the cheapest it will ever be. And I've got multiple coaches. We've got a Facebook ads coach that's going to be in the program, so we make sure it covers all the things. So if you have at all any interest in working with me and authoring like a boss, please come check it out because it starts this week. At authorlikeaboss.com/ALAB masterclass. And right now, that's the only place you can find it. It's not even on my website yet because I'm like, I just want to get it in front of people. Okay, so sign up for the masterclass and I will see you hopefully in a little bit. Hugs and happy authoring here at Author Like a Boss.
If you love the Author Like a Boss podcast, we'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and give a review on iTunes. Until next time.